In It Together SC and the Diabetes Action Council of South Carolina present Wellness Wednesday every Wednesday on Coping with Trey Taylor. Coping.
Hey there, good afternoon, and thank you so much for joining us on Coping. I'm Trey Taylor, and today we're coping with eating to live. It's part of our Coping with Me in 2023 theme, where we give you all the information and tools to make your life the best it can be, because you deserve it, don't you? Alaine Mills is a registered dietitian and certified specialist and sports dietetics who believes that all foods can fit into a healthy food first diet. She works with her clients to create attainable short and long-term goals that become permanent lifestyle changes. Thank you again so much for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Absolutely. Now, I want to know first, Alaine, what is a food first diet? You mentioned that in your bio.
Yeah, it's a good question. So, what food first means is that we focus on optimizing your diet with whole foods versus supplements and powders and things like that. So, if someone is, they're not getting enough protein, I'm going to look at foods that are high in protein, try to find some that they like, and focus on that first before I ever recommend like a protein powder or a supplement, things like that.
Wow, I love that. I want to ask because I'm a vegetarian and I am and been that for years and years. I'm working out right now, and my trainer said that I need to add more protein to my diet because he said that I'm kind of not, because I guess because lifting weights, it needs to feed on the protein that I'm not getting that I would have gotten with meat. What would you suggest for me as opposed, because I just brought a pea-based, a vegetarian-based protein powder. What would you suggest as opposed to that?
And there's nothing wrong with a pea-based protein, and that may really benefit you. But what you could do as well, so you're a vegetarian, not a vegan, is that right?
No, I am. I say I'm kind of quasi-vegan. I don't drink milk. I do almond milk. I don't do cheese. I'm pretty vegan. The only thing is, if I get a craving, girl, I gotta have some ice cream. Other than
that, Gotcha. So I was going to suggest, if you were a vegetarian, not vegan, yogurt is very high in protein, and that's a great post-workout, something that you could have. But what you could have instead of a pea protein would be just a meal that, for example, contained peas. Like maybe you had rice and peas and another vegetable for lunch right after working out. So, but a supplement can help in that case, because you could, just drink a protein shake after working out. But if you're going to go home and have a meal, you could have a meal that had beans or tofu or lentils, chickpeas. All those things contain protein in that whole food. They're also going to give you fiber and nutrients as well.
Yeah, and I love all of those things that you mentioned. You also said that all foods can fit into your diet. And we know a lot of times, especially, first of the year when people are talking about diets, they have to cut out certain things. What do you feel about that? You say no.
Yeah, surprisingly. But really, it's really about the whole picture. And it's not any one food that is causing, any issues for you. It's all about the portion. And oftentimes, and I've been doing this for a long time, so, with many people, when they say, oh, this food is bad, I can't have this food, can't have any sugar, I can't have any cookies, I can't have any brownies, what that leads to is actually binge eating later. Or it may lead to, you said you like your ice cream. So if you're on a diet that doesn't include ice cream, that means that diet has an end date for you, because one day you're going to stop that and you're going to eat ice cream again. So if your diet, instead of eliminating ice cream, you had it in moderation, you really only had it once a week, or you had a much smaller portion or something like that, and you got to enjoy that, then you can continue with that healthy lifestyle forever. And there's nothing about a little bit of ice cream, that as long as you're getting your other nutrients in, that is going to make or break your health.
Yeah, I love that you say that, because you're right. A lot of people fail with eating healthy or eating differently because so much of their favorite food is eliminated from that diet, so to speak. And we have such good and bad, really, relationship with food.
Yes. And demonizing those foods and saying these foods are bad, it really just makes your relationship with food worse. So that's why I kind of focus on all foods fitting, and really focus more on bringing in the foods that are missing versus taking out the foods.
I'll tell you though, for me, because there are times of the year that I do fast. I'm a Christian, so
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
fast during Lent and, like the first of the year. But I'll tell you, when I fast from, and it's usually potato chips, potato chips and sweets.
Hmm.
Um, Once I do it, it's hard for me to start back because once I start, it's like I've opened up the Pandora's box. You know what I mean? So
Hmm.
sometimes it's easier for me just not to do it because once
Hmm.
I start it back, it's like I can't, you can't just eat one, like they say with Lay's potato chips. How do you work with that?
Well, so something that you may want to think about when you cut those foods out, what are you adding in instead of that? So instead of just cutting out all the potato chips and all the snack foods that you're eating, we need to have something to replace that because
Okay.
otherwise your body is going to need energy and that's going to make you really crave simple processed foods. So making sure instead of potato chips, maybe you like almonds and an apple, or
And I
maybe you
do.
have,
Yeah, I do.
yeah, yeah. And that's
Yeah.
great. So if you're
But they don't
fasting,
taste like Wise barbecue potato chips though, girl. I
yeah.
digress.
Well, and that's when you do eliminate something that you really like, sometimes that can make you want it more. Just like with kids, if you take something
Yes.
away from them, then they want it even more. So that's why when you can, it is good to kind of say, okay, well, I can have that whenever I want, but that makes me want it less because I don't need to binge on it now because I can have it tomorrow and I can have a smaller portion. I'm
Right.
kind of full from the apple and those fibrous almonds, so I don't need as much now.
Right. Alaine Mills joins us. She's a registered dietitian and certified specialist in sports dietetics at MUSC. It's part of our Coping with Me in 2023 series. And she's talking about eating and how you can uh, modify your diet for your health. We talked a little bit about sugar earlier, Alaine. How much sugar and salt, those seem to be the two things that we need to eliminate the most. How much is too much?
Yeah, good question. So first, to explain another question, I think is the difference between natural and added sugar. So
Yes.
added sugars, yeah, added sugars are the ones we really need to limit, not the natural sugars. I mean, everything's in moderation, but natural sugars come from dairy and they come from fruit and some vegetables. So those are naturally occurring sugars, like in an orange, in an apple, in a banana, in a potato. Those are naturally occurring sugars. So those
So we
are
can't
those.
get too much of those.
No, well, you can always get too much. You could drink too
Okay.
much water. So everything you can get too much of. But what the type of sugar that we really want to limit is the type that is added sugar. So for example, like in a soda, in a candy bar, in ice cream, in a lemonade, in a cereal, like a sugary cinnamon toast crunch or something like that. Those are
Hmm.
added sugars. So those are the ones that we want to limit. And then the amount that you really want to limit to really give you a number, for women, it's 25 grams a day. And for men, it's 36 grams a day of added sugar. And they do differentiate that on our food label now. It used to not be different. It would just say sugar and it would include the natural and added, but now it's differentiated. So you can look underneath carbohydrate, you can look and see it will say added sugar and tell you how many grams. And in, like, for example, in a bottle of Dr. Pepper, it has about 70 grams of sugar. So that's
Mm.
more than you need in the whole day. So, but with things like fruit and vegetables, those we can have more of. So you don't need to limit or count the grams necessarily of those that you get.
Okay, so fruits are okay. Like you said, the added sugar are those are the ones we have to be conscious about. I want to talk about salt, but I first want to, since we're talking about sugar, stay on sugar and talk about diet soda versus regular soda. My sister-in-law was here for the last couple of days, and I had some diet or no sugar, something like that, ginger ales, because I am trying to limit the amount of sugar. Even with the Gatorade that I have for the kids, I do the no sugar
Mhm.
version. But she said those are worse than the regular ones because according to her, and she's not a dietitian, but
Right.
according to her, your body doesn't know how to process the fake sugar. What is that true?
So that's not quite right. So we have artificial sugars in those drinks, in diet soda and in zero sugar Gatorade. We have artificial sweeteners, and so artificial sweeteners, they sweeten the food without giving you any calories and without providing any sugar. So they are better if you're talking about weight loss. If you have diabetes, they're definitely better. You definitely shouldn't be drinking regular soda if you have diabetes. But they are very, very sweet, and artificial sweeteners are actually up to 200 times sweeter than a gram of sugar, gram for gram. So they can really affect kind of your cravings. So it can make you crave sweet things later. So that's one thing that's not so good about them. And then another thing too is that there's new research about the gut microbiome, which I won't go too much into, but there is some research to show that artificial sweeteners alter your gut microbiome, possibly in a negative way. So it's really everything in moderation. So you don't want to drink diet soda all day because you'll be getting a lot of artificial sweeteners, and we want to drink mostly water. And all sodas actually are very acidic. So that environment is not good for your teeth. So it doesn't matter if it's regular or if it's diet, that's very acidic for your teeth. And that's, not good for you. So you really want to limit. You could have a small Coke, or you could have a small Diet Coke. It really depends on your goals.
Yeah, I don't really do much. Like I said, I was, with the kids, I'm trying to not give them as much sugar. Probably the sugary cereals are the biggest thing that they do have. But I mean, I'm a vegetarian, so, and they're not, but I do, do a lot of fruits, a lot of vegetables. And again, I know people are always, and we drink water 99% of the time, but people are concerned about the sugars that they ingest. Speaking of which, and you touched on this a little bit when you talked about the fruit, but what about honey versus agave versus sugar versus brown sugar?
So this is probably not what everybody wants to hear, but they're all going to affect your blood glucose in the same way. So all of those they do contain sugar. And all of those are added sugars. So it's really kind of a bit of a myth that those are healthier options. They could be healthier if you end up using less of them, like, agave and honey, they have kind of unique flavors. So you may be able to use less honey than you would of a tablespoon of regular table sugar, but gram for gram, it's still added sugar. It's still going to affect your blood sugar. They don't provide any other nutrients. So a lot of times people will say that honey and agave, they contain a lot of nutrients. They contain very trace amounts of other minerals. So that it's just not really, it's still added sugar. So you just still need to limit it. It's certainly okay to have some honey in your tea, things like that. But if you are baking cookies and you're using that instead, it's still going to be about the same nutritional content.
Wow. That's really interesting to know. Thank you so much, because you're right. People are using these alternatives thinking they are better. And you say, sugar is sugar is sugar.
Sugar is sugar. And what you need to do is just, if you're having a cookie made with sugar, have one instead of three, put the rest in the freezer.
What about salt? We talked about sugar. What about the other, thing that we are that attacks us and that we are always concerned about as far as food is concerned? How much salt is too much salt, and what effect does salt have on your body and health?
So when we consume too much salt, it makes us bloated, and that of course makes you not feel good, but it also can affect your blood pressure. So it kind of makes your body hold on to water, and that makes the pressure too high of your blood. So that's not good for your heart over time. So salt is in a lot of processed foods. So foods that, stay on the shelf for a long time and don't go bad, or fast foods or fried foods, that's where we put that. And it really saves the food companies money to put a lot of salt in their food, because then the food doesn't go bad. So it has a longer shelf life.
Wow.
Yeah. So, and it's in a lot of our typical, American foods, and it does enhance the flavor of food. So if you put, of course, we know if we put some salt on food, it tastes more, it enhances that flavor. So we can kind of become addicted to that, where we feel like food without salt tastes bland, but really it's just that you've been used to that. But so to answer your question about how much, when you're going to look at a food label, you're going to look at sodium, and a typical healthy person needs to limit themselves to 2,300 milligrams a day. But if you're over the age of 65, or if you have high blood pressure, if you have diabetes, or if you have any heart conditions, you actually want to go down to 1,500 milligrams a day. Wow. So, and for example, a teaspoon of soy sauce has 1,500 milligrams of sodium.
Wow. So you're at your, you're pretty much at your limit there if you have if Chinese food is on your, lunch or dinner. Wow.
Yeah. So it really, you got to read those labels and look and see how much they have in there.
Is pepper better than salt?
Pepper is better tthan salt because it doesn't have any sodium. So it's really, there's no worries. The only time I would worry about too much pepper is if maybe you had gastro reflux. Pepper could aggravate that, but there's no bad effects of pepper.
And then, of course, other seasonings like basil, thyme, all of that, except for, and this is the thing I know people get confused about, garlic salt is just still salt.
Yes, so that's actually, I was going to bring this up. So what you want to look for, and so herbs and spices, they have benefits. So where the salt, if we have too much, it's not so good for us. Herbs and spices, they flavor our food while they help. Like garlic, for example, like whole garlic cloves, that puts so much flavor into food, and it actually has blood pressure lowering effect. So, and that's a plant food that's helping also feed your gut microbiome. So what you can look for instead of garlic salt, because garlic salt, if you looked at the label, it's just a bunch of salt that's flavored with garlic. You can get garlic powder, and garlic powder doesn't have any sodium. You can also get onion powder, but you can also, of course, use onions and garlic and leeks and things like this. But it's good to have all kinds of dried herbs in your cabinets so that you can use those instead. And there's a lot of good seasoning blends too that don't have any salt in them. And those are going to give benefits to you. So those are great options.
Yeah. So, you're not saying don't flavor your food, don't, have it bland. You're just saying eliminate the salt, because there's so many other seasonings that you can utilize that will not only add a lot of full flavor to your food, it will help you.
Absolutely. Yes. Yeah. And usually too, when you're cooking, unless you're cooking really from scratch, if you're making something and it has a broth or a stock, or if it has a canned beans in it or something, you're already getting some salt from that. So really you definitely don't need to add more salt, so.
Should we wash off our canned and frozen food to eliminate salt?
Good question. Frozen, you don't need to. When you're looking for frozen vegetables, just look at the ingredients list to make sure it's just, if you're looking at a bag of broccoli, the ingredients should just be broccoli. They don't add salt to frozen vegetables unless it's like in a butter sauce or something like that. But for the canned vegetables, it is good to rinse them, and that will eliminate a good bit of the salt, not all of it, but it will eliminate a good bit of that. You can just rinse it real good in a strainer.
Yes. Should we use the broth that it's in, or should we chuck that too?
So that would be high in sodium. You can use it, and I'm not saying that's like going to be the worst thing you ever did, but that would contain a lot of salt.
Yeah. Alaine Mills is from MUSC. She's a registered dietitian, and we're going to come right back and talk about vitamins. Do they have a place in your eating lifestyle? The best and worst times to eat, and how your sleep affects eating. It's all a part of our series, All About Me in 2023. Today, we are coping with your food health and your food lifestyle. We'll be right back with more next. Thanks, Alaine. We'll come right back.
Thanks.
Hi, I'm Judy Gatson. As a news anchor, wife, and mom, I know how important it is to take care of our health. Part of taking care of our health is knowing if you're at risk of type 2 diabetes. Prediabetes is a serious health condition and puts you at risk for developing type 2 diabetes. It's estimated that more than 1.3 million South Carolinians have it, and up to 90% have no idea. Take a moment to visit inittogethersc.org to take an online test to find out your risk of prediabetes and how to join a diabetes prevention program that takes the guesswork out of losing weight, eating better, and being more active. You can learn new ways to stay healthy and sustain those changes over time. When you join, you'll even get support from a trained lifestyle coach to help you set and achieve realistic goals. Go to inittogethersc.org, brought to you by the Diabetes Action Council of South Carolina.
Thank you so much for joining us on Coping. I'm Trey Taylor, and we are streaming live on the Tailor Made Production page on Facebook. Please go over there, hit like and share and follow. Find out when we go live every Wednesday for Wellness Wednesday from In It Together SC and the Diabetes Action Council, and then on Thursday and Friday. We're also streaming live on our YouTube channel. Now, there you'll find 3+ years of information, interviews, and content to help you cope. We also have a presence on Instagram and also on Twitter. Hey, don't forget that scrolling at the bottom of the screen, you'll find all types of resources as far as where you can get your COVID vaccine, your COVID test, and also your flu shot, financial resources, and so much more. So please post and share so we can get the message to the masses. It's all about me in 2023. That's our theme for this year. And we are giving you information, advice, suggestions, content to help you move forward with your personal and professional life on our series. Today, we're talking about food and our relationship with food. Alaine Mills is a registered dietitian and certified specialist in sports dietetics at MUSC. If you're just joining us, please hit the replay button because she just dropped some major gems about food, about salt, about sugar, and so much more. Alaine, thank you for joining us again. Let's talk a little bit about vitamins, minerals, and supplements. Are they needed in our diet, or should we just eat right, so to speak, so we don't have to take the vitamins?
So it's going to be, it depends is the short answer. And then the long answer is, of course, if you have your labs checked and you have something, it's very common to be low, and things like vitamin D is a very common, B12,
Yeah.
sometimes people are low. But as I mentioned before, I always, when I work with people, even if that was low, depending on how low it is, we may just start with trying to use food first to get those nutrients in. So I can recommend some foods that are high in B12. If you're a vegetarian, I can recommend some vegetarian options that have B12. So there's definitely not like a one blanket, vitamin or mineral that I recommend for people. What I try to do is get those foods in their diet, making sure that they're getting a balanced diet, and that will give us all those nutrients. There's really, what the research shows is that just taking a multivitamin doesn't give better outcomes. It doesn't improve disease conditions and things like that.
Wow.
So
Wow.
if I'm speaking with you and I realize, well, we're really not getting any calcium in this diet, I might recommend a calcium and vitamin D supplement, but I would never just recommend that to everyone today, because someone might be really getting a high calcium diet. So
where do we find that out? Do we work with a registered dietitian like you? Do we talk to our physician? How will we know?
Yeah, talking with a registered dietitian or your doctor, I think, would be the best place to start. You can actually go to your doctor to ask for a referral for a dietitian. There's no referral actually to meet with me, so you can just schedule an appointment online. But you can also talk to your doctor, have your labs checked, especially if it's been a while since you had your labs checked. But either way, you could come and talk to me. I'll get like a real good food history and find out what gaps may be present in your diet. And that would be the best place to start.
I love that you say that, because I don't think we even think about working in a dietitian to our yearly or bi-yearly, doctor's visits. I mean, we just go to the doctor, or what, depending on what our age is, we may go to a gynecologist or whatever, but I don't think a lot of people think about, okay, let me bring the dietitian into those group of physicians. But what you're saying makes so much sense, because you would know best, to kind of look at our labs to see, okay, you need to eat this, maybe you don't need to eat this, a little bit more of this, a little bit less of this. So you do take clients, patients.
Yes, I do. And there's no referral required. And I think and I can send you, of course, the information on that so that you can get it out to people. But I think it is really important. And I think the reason why we don't do that is because oftentimes doctors, they wait to send a referral to a dietitian until, someone's A1C is high, they might get
Something's
diabetes.
wrong. Yeah.
And something's wrong. Yeah. So it is always a good idea to do a check-in, because your doctor, number one, they're not really specialized trained in nutrition, but they also, even if they were, don't have the time to spend really going through your diet. So
that's what the dietitian is for.
Exactly. That's why we exist. So yeah.
Yeah. So Alaine Mills is a registered dietitian and certified specialist in sports dietetics at MUSC. She just made a great point. Put her and folks like her, dietitians, into your regular schedule of physicians, so that periodically, and what is it, 2 times a year? How often should we see a dietitian, Alaine?
I think you could start with 1 time a year. And then, if you came to meet with me and we determine there's some real gaps in your diet, things that need to be done, you might even come back for a few months, every month, until we get kind of things tied up and taken care of. And then maybe you come back next year. But even just once a year, you know, I may say, it looks like you're doing everything right, and I won't need to see you again until next year. So.
Awesome. Awesome. I want to ask you a couple of more questions before we wrap up today. Are there the best times and worst times to eat? I know we talk a lot about don't eat, you know, a couple of hours before you go to sleep. Are there, how is that true?
So really what matters is the total amount of food that you eat in a whole day. So, you know, scientifically, you're not going to gain weight no matter what time you eat, as long as you don't eat too much. So if we eat too much, that extra food, that extra energy, it does have to be stored, and that's how we start gaining weight. But there's not a magic time of the day where your body says, I'm going to start storing fat now because I know you're about to go to bed. That being said, when you're about to go to bed, we don't really need a lot of energy. That's the last time we're not going to be using very much energy. We need the food earlier in the day. And when you exercise, it is important to have nutrients and protein throughout the day. And you definitely want to have carbohydrates for energy before you work out. So there is definitely timing that comes into play. Again, it's going to sort of depend on you, your schedule, and everything like that. But it is good to eat every 4 to 5 hours to get that protein into your body and keep you in kind of a positive way to keep building muscle and maintaining that muscle mass.
So you suggest eating, kind of grazing, and I'm a grazer. You suggest instead of doing maybe 3 meals a day, every 5 hours.
Well, you know, 3 meals a day I think is really good, and then maybe some small snacks in between. Grazing for some people can be bad because that might lead to not portioning. So if you're grazing, you're kind of just imagining you just grabbing things in the kitchen and not really plating food. But I think plating food is very important. You always want to take things and put them on a plate or in a bowl, never eating out of a bag or anything like that. And it is good to have a schedule, but you know, if you have breakfast at 8 and then you have lunch at noon and then you have dinner at 5, you may only need to have one snack in between that to keep you through. And when you have a snack, you know, between your meals, that can help you to not overeat at the next meal because you're not so hungry. You know, you've kind of had something to tie you over. Right. But everybody is different. So there's not a one thing that I recommend, but that, you know, generally eating throughout the day works better for most people.
What we talked a little bit about, you know, not needing energy late at night when you're getting ready to go to sleep. Does sleep have an impact on our eating habits?
Absolutely. It really does. Sleep impacts every health system in our body, but it does affect, actually, if you get, the research shows that if you sleep too little, that affects your body's hunger and fullness hormones, which are so important because if you're experiencing an excess of hunger hormones, you're going to feel hungrier than you really should and then overeat. And that can actually happen with just one night of poor sleep. So if you're getting better sleep, you're going to have better regulation of your hormones that help your body to stay full, feel hungry at normal times, feel full after eating. So if you're chronically getting less than 6 hours of sleep per night, that could be a reason why you end up inadvertently overeating.
Wow. So 8 hours is the optimal time. And I guess it depends on your age too, right?
It can, and it does. Yeah. And it can just depend on you as a person, but I would say minimum 7. And for most people do better with 8 or even 9. You know, that might not be practical for most people, but somewhere between 7 and 9 is really what research shows is best.
Yeah. I drink almond milk because obviously I'm a vegetarian, but is cow milk versus almond, soy, or oat milk, are they all the same? Do you get sufficient nutrients with eating non-cow milk as you would with some other options?
So most of the, you know, cow's milk alternatives like almond milk, cashew milk, all of those milks, usually they have calcium and vitamin D added to them. And that is the very most important thing to look for.
Okay.
Most of the time when I look, they do have that, but that is something that you want to check. Make sure it has calcium and make sure that it has vitamin D. That is our main source of calcium and vitamin D. We get a little bit from fruits and vegetables, but not enough. So it does have sufficient amounts of that usually. The difference between cow's milk and almond milk, for example, cow's milk has a lot more protein. So cow's milk has about 8 grams of protein. Almond milk really doesn't have any. So that's okay though. We just need to make sure, like for you, for example, I wouldn't recommend that you have almond milk after you work out. You could have it, but then you would also want to have some of those meals we talked about, like maybe some lentils, maybe some tofu to give you that protein, because the almond milk isn't giving you that. But for somebody that drinks cow's milk, I'd say, oh, you can have some milk after you work out, or you can have some yogurt. That'll give you protein. So when we have those alternatives, they just don't provide protein.
What about like no fat, low fat, no fat milk versus, just regular whole milk?
Good question. So the difference between whole milk and skim milk is only the fat. So that's something that people don't always understand, is that there's the same amount of protein in skim milk. There's the same amount of calcium and vitamin D. So the only difference is that they remove the fat. And the fat in milk is saturated fat, which can affect your cholesterol. So generally it's better to have a lower fat version, because you're still getting the calcium, you're still getting the vitamin D, and you're still getting that protein. But it depends really, again, on the person. For some people that really need a lot more calories, I might recommend whole milk for them.
Yeah. Now, finally, you say that you kind of work with your clients to create short and long-term goals that they can achieve and attain. What does that look like? How do you craft a successful eating plan, long-term and short-term?
Yeah. So usually what I do is, when a person comes to meet with me, they are always eager to tell me their long-term goals. I want to lose 50 pounds. I want to be a vegan, but I don't know where to start. So I may say, okay, well, your goal is to be a vegan, but you don't know where to start. And you're really, maybe I do a diet recall with them. They're really not eating any legumes, which is really important to get if you're going to be a vegan. So we might start by just setting a goal, a short-term goal, to include beans in your diet 4 times a week. Mm-hmm. And maybe also to remove something that's animal-based. So maybe we're going to remove the animal-based protein at lunch. So those would be the short-term goals. And then the long-term goal is of course, going to be fully vegan, for example. So we're going to set some short-term attainable goals, and that's going to vary per person, because some people may be halfway through a journey when they come here, and some people may be at the very beginning. So we'll set those short and long-term goals, and then we'll have check-ins to kind of keep us moving towards that long-term goal. And that helps with accountability, because really oftentimes that's the thing that's missing. When you have these goals, these New Year's resolutions to lose 50 pounds, who's holding you accountable to that after, January 5th? So that's what I can be here for.
Yeah, I love that, because you can kind of help them craft, as you say, something that's going to make sense, something that's not going to be, let them down, because it makes sense, instead of, like you say, oh, next week I'm going to do this big thing. And that's not going to happen.
Right. It's just not practical. So,
it's not practical. Yeah. Alaine Mills is a registered dietitian and certified specialist in sports dietetics. What is sports dietetics?
It's a good question. So I specialize in helping active people, like athletes, or just people that are recreational and active people. Like you were saying, you started exercising. So I have a specialty training in kind of sports nutrition is really what it is. Yeah.
She's over at MUSC, and she believes all foods can fit into a healthy food first diet. And as I said, she works with her clients to achieve attainable short and long-term goals that become permanent lifestyle changes. She is open to accepting clients. So you can see her information on the screen if you want to consult with her about attaining your lifestyle and eating goals, and even just to find out where you are, what you need to eat a little bit more of, what you need to eat a little bit less of. Because as we found out during the interview today, bringing a dietitian into your circle of physicians is so very important. That's what they specialize in, making sure you're eating the right things. So Alaine is one of those people. Alaine, thank you so much for joining us today. This has been really, really an interesting and fascinating conversation. And here's hoping that some people contact you, or at least they are conscientious about how food plays into your daily life, your lifestyle, and how it does not have to overtake you. You can enjoy food and it do the good for you that it's supposed to do. It's supposed to help us.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you so much for having me. I love talking about this stuff, and I love getting the word out and helping people. That's why I went into this field. So I really appreciate you giving me a platform.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Alaine. I appreciate it. We'll be right back with more Coping. I'm Trey Taylor.
Hello, I'm Carolyn Sawyer, an entrepreneur and caregiver. Part of taking care of your health is knowing if you're at risk of type 2 diabetes. Prediabetes is serious and puts you at risk for developing type 2 diabetes. Up to 90% of South Carolinians who have it don't know they have it. Visit inittogethersc.org. Take an online test to find out your risk and join a diabetes prevention program. This message brought to you by the Diabetes Action Council of SC.
Computers, they're a part of our everyday lives. But when they're not working, they're an everyday problem. So call Computers Unique, your everyday solution. 803-351-5821. Is your computer running slow? Won't turn on? Do you need a screen replaced? Or maybe you just need another computer? Well, Computers Unique is your one-stop shop for all your computer needs. They have a wide variety of new and pre-owned PCs, Macs, and tablets. So call Computers Unique, Dutch Square Mall. 803-351-5821. 803-351-5821.
Our series, Coping With Me in 2023, is aiming to help you physically, mentally, spiritually, and emotionally get the life that you desire and deserve. And food is a huge part of that process. We're here with Chef Judy Etheredge at her studio in Columbia, South Carolina. And we're going to talk about food. You can see all of this beautiful food on the screen. And we're going to talk a little bit about how to prepare and what to eat. Now, Judy, this is such a colorful palette right here. You've got, lemons, oranges, bananas, grapes, peppers. What is this? Is this a cucumber? Is this cucumber? Carrots, green beans, lettuce. So this is showing that we should eat the colors of the rainbow, and I'm eating the colors of the rainbow. Go ahead while you talk.
Absolutely, yeah. And the benefits of eating the rainbow, I believe that's what God meant us to do. That's why He put so many beautiful veggies and fruit on this earth. And just anywhere you go, always make sure you find out what the local fruit or veggie is and enjoy something different.
Right. And can you get too much of fruits and vegetables?
Yeah, especially the fruits. Fruits just, kind of have a natural sugar.
Right.
And for those that have problems with issues with sugar like diabetes, or they have insulin resistance or high glycemic levels, we recommend that maybe they stay with a half a cup of fruit.
Okay. All right. So how much of fruits and vegetables should we be eating?
Right, so I recommend for breakfast, for breakfast we can add a little vegetable to it, we can add a little fruit, but normally for lunch and dinner, we recommend a cup.
Okay.
And that's easy to get in, a cup of vegetables would be great, or you can choose a half a cup of vegetables and a half a cup of fruit. So those would be a good way you can get a balance and get different types of fruits and vegetables.
Is it good or bad? Does it matter if you eat raw vegetables or cooked vegetables? I'm eating these raw green beans. And I asked you yesterday, can I eat raw green beans? You said, yes, I'm eating them. It's a good snack.
Yeah, that's good. She likes them too. And they're good also in the air fryer. And I'm
glad you mentioned that because I'm going to talk about air frying. But like the peppers, they're okay. And what is this? Is this
a mango?
This is a mango. Okay.
Very delicious.
Yeah. All right, so you're just saying get them in a couple of times a day.
Right, absolutely. And especially like if you want to add a little flavor to it, a lemon would be a great way to get some, of course, vitamin C in, and also give your food a whole nother flavor.
Yeah.
It's all about building flavor. So you get fruits and vegetables, and you get like fruits you can put cinnamon on and help the taste of those.
Right.
Your veggies, you can add a little garlic, fresh garlic or dried onions, and your favorite seasoning, of course, we're going to watch it. The soda, which is one thing we'll definitely watch. But I say get them in, whether they raw or cooked.
Okay. Now you mentioned the grapes because they have natural sugar. So like you said, if you have diabetes or some other kind of issue, you want to kind of limit, I guess, the amount of sugar. Now, are red grapes sweeter, or do they have more? They seem like they're more than green grapes.
It's very interesting. Grapes have seasons too, so you may have over 50 to 70 different types of grapes, and each one of those have a different kind of sugar content.
Right.
They have one called cotton candy.
Right.
And
I don't
very
like those. They're too sweet.
They are very sweet. So some of them do have different amounts of sugar in them.
Yeah.
Just like your apples.
Yeah.
Certain apples have more sugar in them.
We're here with Chef Judy Etheredge. I know this is so unprofessional. I'm eating and talking at the same time. But we are talking about eating good food. This is good food, vegetables and all this. Now, fried food is a big thing. And you talked about your air fryer. How is that a better way to fry?
Absolutely, because I like a little chicken wing every once in a while. And I take and season it nicely with some Cajun or jerk seasoning, and the air fryer gets it crispy, And if you don't have air fryer, you just bump your oven up to like 450 to 500, and it fries it just as well as a fryer would be.
So what do you have to do to put on your, whether it be vegetables, fried green beans are even good.
Yes.
Do you still put it in batter?
If you like, you can toss it in the egg white and put, either breadcrumbs and put it in the air fryer for the crispiness. But I'm okay with just doing them in the air fryer without the bread.
Right. Now let's talk about this. This is this salad. This is a nice salad. This has got we got the picture of it. It's got lettuce. It's got a little avocado and chickpeas.
Yeah, chickpeas. So this is a great option for vegans, or vegetarian, or people that just want to cut back on some of the meat.
Right.
And it has a lot of things. It has cucumber, garbanzo beans in it, carrots, roasted zucchini and squash, and avocado. Tomatoes is in it, the red onion in it, and I like to throw a few little nuts in it, to give it, and that's, friendly for a vegan or vegetarian or somebody that just want to cut back on the meat. A lot of times, this time of year, a lot of people do daily fast, and that's great for them. It's very filling, and this is a homemade dressing that we just took and put about a fourth of a cup of olive oil in it, half a cup of apple cider vinegar, a tablespoon of Dijon mustard, salt, black pepper, a little garlic, and amazing dressing. I would tell anybody, don't buy dressings at the store.
Really? Because they have so much.
Yeah, so much. And it's so easy to make.
Yeah.
You just shake it.
So tell us again what this dressing has.
Okay, it's a fourth of a cup of olive oil, and you can do half and half, but I try to watch, of course, the oil in it. Apple cider vinegar, which is a half a cup, a tablespoon of Dijon mustard, pinch of salt, pinch of black pepper, pinch of garlic, and pinch of Italian seasoning. Shake it up and put it in your blender.
Okay. Now I stay away from acidic, and with so could I have this? I mean, because the apple cider vinegar is a little acidic, and then something else you mentioned that I thought was a little acidic.
The only thing acidic is in the apple cider vinegar.
It's apple cider.
Yeah. So I tell people, like my husband, he's sensitive to vinegar.
Yeah.
He loves vinegar dressing, but a lot of times we're not allergic, but we're more sensitive. When you're sensitive, you start coughing or something else, happens. So if you are allergic to that, I would recommend instead with anything acidic.
Right.
Pay attention to your body. If you eat something that don't agree, just change out for something else. There's so much we can eat that we don't have to.
So what could we use to make our own salad dressing other than the apple cider vinegar?
Lemon would be acidic, so
lemon's acidic.
But I would take and soak some cashew nuts and blend them into like a cream. You use nutritional yeast, and then you put all the seasons, like I said, the Dijon mustard, the salt and black pepper, the garlic, and Italian, and you can make like a creamy dressing.
Now you've got some stuff over here that could either be breakfast or a snack.
Right.
You've got the raisins, walnuts, coconut, berries, and what are these two things?
Okay, one is an oatmeal.
Oatmeal.
So this is how we can make two different things out of it. We can make a snack and a breakfast.
Okay.
So we can take the oatmeal with some coconut milk, boil it if you would like. We can take the hemp seeds, and the reason why I recommend the hemp seeds is because the hemp seeds is full of protein. They have 10 grams of protein. They have omega-3 and omega-6, which we need for our brain. So that would be a breakfast with some blueberries, a boiled egg, put some nuts, coconut, and dried raisin in the oatmeal. That's one way to create a breakfast. And then, like if you want to turn it into a snack, you have the boiled egg on the side. You take and put the nuts, the dried raisins, and the coconut in a little container.
Make your own, kind of like a trail mix.
That's right, and have your fruit on the side.
Well, you've got something over here that I'm talking about is the chocolate.
Right.
Dark chocolate. How much dark chocolate can we eat?
Right. So we recommend an ounce, which is that's 2 pieces. So
You
this
can
is
eat
perfect.
an ounce a day?
An ounce a day.
Wow.
And you can have, if you want to make it more like a really good treat, you can take that dark chocolate, pair it up with your favorite berry, and some coconut and nut, and that's just a whole nother snack. And that could be a dessert at night.
So putting it with the nuts and the raisins and the coconut makes it a little healthier.
Complete too, and then you're complete. You have a good fat, you have a little sweet treat, but not too much of the sugar.
Right.
And then, like I said, if you add an egg to it, that's your protein.
Right. Judy Etheredge, Coach Jay, Chef Jay joins us today. It is all part of our series, Coping with Me in 2023. We are helping you get back on track spiritually, mentally, emotionally, physically, and today we're talking about how to eat good for you and good to you. Now, Judy, you do meal prep.
I do.
I mean, Judy's done meal prep for me for years. I buy my veggies and stuff like that. How much time should people devote into meal prep? You know, a lot of people say, I don't have time.
Right. So I tell people I recommend it on a Sunday when you're home, that you can do a meal prep. Meal prep does take time. But so I would recommend, you know, maybe half a day, 3 or 4 hours. But don't cook so much that you're not gonna eat it, one thing. And the other thing is that you don't want to waste.
Right.
So just maybe prepare, you know, 5 to 6 meals, and then maybe on Thursday you're gonna do it again, or the day that's more convenient for you.
Okay.
But you can freeze the meals, so that's a great thing. And not, you know, of course, not avocado and not lettuce.
Yeah.
But you can fix your meals, and you know, you can get these kind of containers. That's a complete meal. And this is what we consider a salmon bowl.
Okay.
And that's a complete meal.
So I was going to ask, what foods can you meal prep? You know, which would mean you're preparing in advance.
Right. So I would maybe pick 3 different types of protein, your favorite ones, and change it every week so you don't get bored. And so I would do chicken, salmon, and maybe a turkey burger.
Okay.
Or chicken, salmon, or hamburger. There's the salmon. And a vegan salad, and we have filet mignon, which is a steak.
Okay, all right. So So can you meal prep your salads?
Yeah, you can meal prep your salad for about 3 to 4 days at a time.
3 to 4
Put it in the
days.
refrigerator, except for
Okay.
avocado, because
Okay.
it turns color after you cut it.
Right. Okay, so now let's talk about this salmon bowl and then of course the balanced meal.
Right.
So this looks good. This is another good meal that is filling, but it's good for you too.
Right. So what we did is, opposed to doing the rice, we changed it to quinoa. And like I was telling you before the show, that we do quinoa and rice mixed together.
So let's find out what is quinoa, because a lot of people are hearing a lot about quinoa now, but don't know. So what is that?
Well, quinoa is a grain,
Okay.
and this grain is good for you. This grain is very filling, and it also have a lot of protein in it, opposed to rice that does have more carbohydrates. And so the quinoa is really good because it's a protein. It's very filling. That's what I like about it.
Yeah.
It really full off of it. And the avocado will be a good fat. The salmon will be a good fat plus your protein. And then, like we said, with the theme of the rainbow, we did the roasted zucchini squash, lima beans. You can pick any kind of beans, black beans, Gabbana beans are my favorite, white beans, whatever your favorite bean is.
Right.
And then we took and paired it with the lettuce and some carrots. You can put tomatoes on it. And after you heat it, you can cut up cucumbers on top of it. And most of the time, I can't even finish a bowl like that because it's so filling. That's what you want. You want to eat when you're full.
When you're full.
And not just hungry all the time.
Right,
you know?
right. So like you said, you got salad, you've got some avocado, salmon, you've got the quinoa under it. And it's, for those of you who don't know, it kind of tastes like a rice.
It does taste like
kind of. So is quinoa better for you than rice?
Absolutely. Because like I said, that protein component of it. And if you want to change it and make it some kind of sweet and savory, you can cook it with coconut milk.
Okay.
And you can add a little stevia to it, a little honey, and a little nuts and fruit.
Okay.
It's a whole complete meal just like that.
Wow.
And especially speaking to our vegans, you know.
Right.
If you notice, we didn't use any cheese or anything, but if you want to add feta cheese or goat cheese, I recommend very highly.
So let's talk a little bit about cheese. Is there a good cheese and a bad cheese?
I would say it depends on the body. So
Okay.
some people are very lactose intolerant.
Right.
But if you can tolerate it, I like goat cheese personally.
Right.
Because it's not as processed and it's more close to what nature wants to have.
Gotcha.
So like for instance, they have what's called feta cheese. But you have to read on the back of the pack that authentic feta cheese is made out of goat milk.
Oh, wow.
Well, a lot of them have skim milk, and I just discovered it just by reading ingredients. So goat milk would be my #1 choice as when I would say that would be the best kind of cheese. Goat cheese would be.
Goat cheese. Okay. All right. So now you've got this balanced meal here, and you said you've got the filet mignon, the sweet potatoes. Now you've got 2 different kind of vegetables. You've got zucchini squash, and then you've got asparagus. Why 2 vegetables, and do we need 2 different vegetables?
Well, speaking back to what we talking about, green and rainbow. But not only that, we like different textures. Different, just like for the plate to look good. So I recommend it very highly. I would like 2 to 3 different type of vegetables.
Yeah, I do too, but I'm a vegetarian.
So that is a good thing because don't go back to the nutrients. And what we're going to talk about with that part is that a lot of the different things with all of this going on today is that it's full of nutrients.
Right.
I mean, it's full of stuff that you want to keep your hair looking good, your skin looking good, your weight down, your heart working, in good shape. All this good fat, good fresh fruits, fresh vegetables. You can't go wrong.
Yeah, and that's the other thing I'm glad you mentioned, because everything in our body, our hair, our skin, reacts to the food that we put in.
That's right.
Now, I know a lot of people coming off of COVID, their people didn't go to the doctor, they weren't eating correctly, and I know you had a situation like that.
It shocked me, actually. It shocked me, but I kept telling my husband, I said, I'm just not feeling myself.
Yeah.
My energy level was low, and I was afraid that two things were going on, that my A1C was going up, and that my hormones was acting.
Wow.
And when I went to my doctor and I said, I want you to do a panel of everything. So I got my physical starting in November. It took me 3 months really. So I did a physical from head to toe. Had my eyes checked. They was in pretty good shape, but I had 20/25 vision, so I could wear readers. I had my mammogram. Thank God they came back good. My pap smear. She checked my cholesterol. She took 6 of blood. She checked my cholesterol. My cholesterol went up 50 points. That was very frightening. And then my A1C.
Yeah, because your cholesterol. Because we were just talking before the show. You had a friend that just passed away, cardiac arrest. Lisa Marie Presley recently passed away. And cardiac arrest is different than a heart attack. Your heart just stops. And your cholesterol is one of those things you have to be conscientious about for cardiac arrest. Heart disease is the #1 killer of women.
And the interesting thing though too, the young lady that I was speaking of, she's only 50 years old.
Wow.
And
I mean, all the problem.
Yeah, go ahead. When she had, a little bit of weight on her, but what I would encourage people is that you have to get your physical. Especially if you have issues running your family. Don't ignore yourself because it could be deadly. And I'm just so glad that I went to the doctor because everything was on the way. So now my iron was low. So I take an iron supplement, and then I take a stool supplement because iron locks you up.
It does, girl.
Yeah. So I had to take that, and then my hormones was all out of whack. And I was just shocked that I had gotten that bad shape just in 2 years. So I think about people two things, that don't have insurance, and I think about people that don't get checked out. I mean, self-love is checking yourself out. And I'm so glad I didn't wait 3 years, because they don't tell me what my numbers are.
And that's the thing, because of COVID, a lot of people stopped going to the doctor. We let ourselves go. So this is the year for you to get yourself back together. COVID numbers are still high. So wear a mask, but whatever you do, go to the doctor, get checked out. You talked about insurance. You can get free health care. If finances are an issue, and go ahead and live your best life. And that's what this series is about. COVID with me in 2023. We're giving you information, tips, strategies to help you get through this, because it's not an easy journey.
No,
it's not easy. But you don't have to do it alone. Get you a support partner, a buddy, or whatever. In It Together has all types of great resources to help you get back on track. And we were just here, with Judy Etheredge, Chef Jay, to kind of give you some information on how to meal prep, what to eat, what not to eat. She even said you can eat some dark chocolate. Who says you can eat dark? You can eat dark chocolate, and that's your good little treat. But treat yourself, even better. So you went to the doctor, you got yourself back on track.
That's right. And also I had gained weight.
Yeah. And everybody did.
Yeah. And I'm gonna tell you how I stuck up on it too, is that a lot of times I'm also with leggings. But as you gain weight, they can just keep on.
That's right. Girl, yeah. They fool you.
They fooled you, honey. I didn't realize I had got that. I felt myself kind of,
Yeah.
And when I said, God, I said, every time I would, and that's what nutrients coming to, every time I would eat, I said, goodness, it seemed like I stayed hungry. So I had to even reboot myself as a health coach. I just let it go and didn't catch it in time.
Yeah.
So now I'm back on it, and I'm here for anybody that needs support. They can contact me. If your doctor's not doing what you want them to do, if they're not proactive on your health, you can fire them.
Right. That's right. That's right. That's right. That's right.
I have all kinds of recommendations for dentists, doctors, whatever they need. I have that information for them. Also on Tuesdays, we have clients that come to pick up, their meals. We have fresh veggies, and we make sure we get everything fresh, and we cook everything fresh that's good and healthy. We try to stay away from a lot of the salt. We season everything. Yeah. But we leave room for people to add a little bit more salt if they want to. Right. Salt is one of those biggest things that a lot of people are salt sensitive. So we try to be aware of the salt. But other than that, we try to make sure that your food tastes good and it looks good. Right. All right. So like Judy said, she does meal prep. She gives you advice, suggestions, coaching,
on how to eat to live and eat and have a better lifestyle. You can see her information on the screen. So please either give her a call, email her, stop by her beautiful studio here in Columbia, South Carolina, off Park Lane. But do what you need to do to get yourself ready, set, go, so that you can have the life that you desire and deserve. It's all about me in 2023, and we are helping you on coping. I'm Trey Taylor. We'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Judy Gatson. As a news anchor, wife, and mom, I know how important it is to take care of our health. Part of taking care of our health is knowing if you're at risk of type 2 diabetes. Prediabetes is a serious health condition and puts you at risk for developing type 2 diabetes. It's estimated that more than 1.3 million South Carolinians have it, and up to 90% have no idea. Take a moment to visit inittogethersc.org to take an online test to find out your risk of prediabetes and how to join a diabetes prevention program that takes the guesswork out of losing weight, eating better, and being more active. You can learn new ways to stay healthy and sustain those changes over time. When you join, you'll even get support from a trained lifestyle coach to help you set and achieve realistic goals. Go to inittogethersc.org, brought to you by the Diabetes Action Council of South Carolina.
Thank you so much for joining us for Coping with Trey Taylor. If you have a product or service that could help someone cope with COVID, please email copingwithtreytaylor@gmail.com. We would love for you to be a proud sponsor, just like In It Together SC and the Diabetes Action Council. They sponsor Wellness Wednesday every Wednesday here on Coping with COVID. Javis Tax Services, Palmetto Media Connections, the Fifth Circuit Solicitor's Office, Attorney Byron Gibson, Agape Counseling and Training Services, Black Pages, Black Expo, the Comet Bus System, and Computers Unique, Dutch Square Mall. We also would love for you to be a guest on the show. If you have a story or initiative that could help someone cope with COVID, please email booking@copingwithtreytaylor.com. Booking@copingwithtreytaylor.com. That information is scrolling at the bottom of the screen. We would love to feature you on the show because we're always coping with something. As always, we leave you with a great devotional. I'm reading back again from Jesus Calling. This says, when things seem to be going all wrong, stop and affirm your trust in me. Calmly bring these matters to me and leave them in my capable hands. Leave them there. Then simply do the next thing. Stay in touch with me through thankful, trusting prayers, resting in my sovereign control, God of your salvation. As you trust in me, I make your feet like the feet of a deer. I enable you to walk, to make progress upon your high places of trouble, suffering, or responsibility. When things are going wrong, remember what is right. Jesus, he can do it for you. Thank you guys so much for joining us today for Coping with Trey Taylor. Until the next time, I wish you peace and abundant blessings. Take care, stay well, God bless. And if you're going to be out and about with large crowds, especially inside, don't forget to wear your mask over your nose and under your chin. I'll see you soon.
Coping, find peace of mind to survive through whatever. Coping, learning the way that we thrive all together. Coping, finding out what's real. Coping, we can heal, we can heal, we can heal. Coping with stress, coping with strife, bringing hope for success, for improving our life. Coping beyond hoping to do more than survive, ways to live a healthy life. Coping and promoting, learning what you can do, 6 ways to a better you.